As Rex Harrison famously sang, whoops, steady, or should that be said, if we could talk to the animals, learn their languages, think of all the things we could discuss. Well, I can't promise conversing with a chimpanzee, but I can promise something just as spectacular. Steady, Mr. Wilson. Steady, steady, good boy. This is Mr. Wilson. He's a 15-year-old Welsh Cob Cross thoroughbred. Find out why he'll be enjoying this month more than ever before, thanks to a bit of horse whispering magic. See, it really works. It's time for Love Your Weekend. If a June night could talk, it would probably boast it invented romance. So said the philosopher Bernard Williams. He was right about this month of unashamed wonder, where summer begins, where we enjoy our longest days, where skies are blue and gardens put on an exuberant burst of growth, rainbows of colour, and fill the evenings with fragrance. Just an old romantic, really. I can't wait to see what it brings. And here's what this morning will bring. She's the Olivier Award-winning actress with showbiz running through her veins. Sophie Thompson talks secrets and scandal in the return of a Julian Fellows favourite. And he's one of our edgiest and funniest comedians, and a Love Your Weekend favourite, Omid Jalili, getting everything off his chest as he sets to entertain the nation once more. Camilla Bassett-Smith's here with exotic additions for any garden in this month's June diary. And we're cordially invited to sample some very posh pop in today's Best of British. Andy Clark's making watered-down orange squash a thing of the past as he excites our palates with surprising fruit-based spritzers. Ahead of all that, time to meet today's guests. First up, a woman with grease paint running through her veins. She's a star of stage, screen and film, Sophie Thompson, and an Olivier Award winner too. And then there's Omid Jalili. Welcome to you both. Now, this is a reunion. I just want to tell you, it's 24 years on.
We were.
Since you first met. Is that what you worked it out as?
Yeah, was it Lee Evans?
It was Lee Evans. I was playing his landlady. And Omid, you can't see. You were
I think I was an accountant. I said, "Where my money? We want money. What happened? What money?" I kept saying money. That's all I remember. I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, because he didn't pay his rent or something, and I was a posh landlady, and
it's lovely how these
we hung out.
They go into the.
Yes.
I know.
Did we?
When was that? 2000. That's not long ago. Oh, 24 years.
24.
No, it was fun. I remember loving working with you. That was really fun.
So it's twice as long as you think, isn't it, when you're trying to get these... But I did want to talk to you both about professional mishaps, things that go wrong when you're doing stuff that you don't expect. I mean, from your point of view, what's...
Well, I mean, I'm sure the list is endless, but one that sprung to mind was working on Corrie, and I was so happy to be there and so happy to be working with Sue Nichols and Helen Worth, you know, legends. And I got to go in the hairdresser shop, and I was playing this rather dodgy woman called Rosemary, and well, Sue Nichols just has funny bones, as you know.
Yeah.
And I just completely... Even the nerves got overrun by the fact that she just made me laugh, and I just couldn't stop laughing. And, you know, when you're a guest on a show like that and you're not there for long, you're very conscious about...
Of trying to impress.
Well, not rocking the boat, but, yeah, they had to give us a bit of a break because we both just were in pieces.
It happens to me very, very occasionally, and it's almost impossible to... When you get the giggles, it's funny to start with, and then they start getting impatient that you can't...
Yes.
And they get cross, and that's funny.
But it gets worse. It's awful. You're giggling.
That's actually, it does get worse because you could get fired for it. I got fired from Pirates of the Caribbean 3, actually, because I was giggling, laughing, And I think the director had enough of me when there was this big crane shot on a boat, and I kept pretending I was James Bond with the gun, and I heard they said, "Get the gun off him." They took the gun off me, so I grabbed a sword. The crane shot comes, I'm swirling a sword. They goes, "Take the sword off him." And the third thing, I started pretending with the gun. They said, "Get him off the set." And I was taken onto the set. I was driven to my hotel, and the guy goes, "I'll wait here for you." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Your flight's in 2 hours. You've got half an hour to pack. We can just about get you to the airport." So I was actually fired. And I remember I couldn't call, because it was like 5 o'clock in the evening there. I couldn't call anybody. So I just arrived in London, and I told my agent I'm back. They goes, "But you've got another week." I said, "No, they fired me."
What made you do it, though? I mean, you
giggling
lost
and laughing. I thought the whole thing was so funny. And you were with Johnny Depp, and you had, Jeffrey Rush. And I think it was the third film where everyone can't be bothered. They were just there to have a good... We were just laughing all the time. And I was the fall guy. I got...
You weren't allowed to laugh, but they were.
They did, but they got rid of me. Yeah.
Oh,
I got fired for laughing.
Is that the only time you've been fired? Have you been...
That's the only time I'm legally allowed to speak about.
Oh.
There have been other times, I can assure you. Yes.
So when you're not working, what about jobs while you're resting, Sophie? When you're in situations like that where you've lost your job, what have you done? Have you ever done resting jobs?
Yeah, oh yeah. Mainly food related, actually. Sandwich bar, waitressing. I worked very briefly. My strangest one was cleaning in an electrical shop in Bristol when I was a student. It had those big old tellies in, and I just remember taking great pride in cleaning out the slitty bits with earbuds.
Oh, yeah.
Because, those old tellies got really dusty.
They were static, weren't they? They sort of attracted muck. I remember those little louvers or little grooves where the sound came out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I took great pleasure in that. I mean, it's such a skill being a good cleaner. I really appreciate what...
I find it therapeutic.
Yes, and I think we don't appreciate those kind of jobs enough. And I just think it's a lesson to just realise what a skill there is in doing all of those tasks so well. And I remember this old guy was called George, and he was chuffed to bits. I'd come up with this method.
The cotton bud.
Yeah, and I often think of him, and when I see people do something like that brilliantly, it's a beautiful thing. Anyone who does something well makes it beautiful, whatever it is.
You were a taxi driver, weren't you?
Yes, but resting, my dad had a friend who had a chauffeuring company, so we go along with other chauffeurs, like the opening of Planet Hollywood. I was very lucky to drive Sylvester Stallone, and you're with actors. You want to tell people, I'm an actor, really, and it's just like a sideline job. And I think he didn't say a word. I talked the whole time, and he gave me $100, and I said, "That's so kind, Mr. Stallone." He goes, as he walked, he goes, "I was just paying you to shut up," and he left. So it was quite, actually, I embarrassed myself again. So that was kind of. It's a good story, but it was quite humiliating at the time.
Is there no sort of edit within you that says, "I really shouldn't do this"? It's a kind of death wish, it seems to me, with you. I want to lose a job. I want to be fired.
I just think, you've got little talent. I also was a driver for Metallica, and they actually like me because I was entertaining. And some people like it. Some people want you to shut up. But if they were like, he would say, literally, if I wasn't speaking, he goes, "Hey, do something funny." So I'd open my window and shout at people, for no reason, like, "You're driving too fast." Like there'd be an old woman driving to you, "You're going too fast." He goes, "That's hilarious." So sometimes they found it entertaining, but mostly it's very annoying.
More from Omid and Sophie later on. In the meantime, the Manor Farm pastry chefs have been working around the clock. Do enjoy the fruits of their labours. Flapjacks, chocolate eclairs, Blattenberg. Amazing. It looks shop bought. It is. Still ahead, lend me your ears. It's all right, not more Shakespeare, but a horse who needed a few whispered words to take away his nerves. We'll see how a little TLC can go a long way with the horse, Mr. Wilson, right after this. Welcome back. Still to come, he's enjoyed a few plum rolls in his time, from Fagin in Oliver to Tevier in Fiddler on the Roof to a Queen's Player at Windsor Castle. Omid Jalili back on tour and unleashing a torrent of comedic vitriol as he takes on the world. Be afraid, be very afraid. Now, forming a bond with any animal can be an emotional and magical experience. And when the animal you're connecting with is nervous or has trust issues, it's all the more fulfilling. My next guest has a lifelong affinity with horses. Following a show jumping career, from an early age, she developed an instinctive ability to form bonds of trust with what we might call troublesome horses. I'm very pleased to welcome back horse whisperer Victoria Smith and her latest success, Mr. Wilson. So your job, Victoria, is what?
Listening to horses, fixing the problems and the owner's problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come from them. If there's any pain, we can sort of figure out where it's coming from. But mostly it's often transcends from the owner that sort of makes, an issue. Behavioural issue, whether it's loading problem or a bucking problem, or with Mr. Wilson, anything that has loud noises. So a mower, a tractor, a bin lorry.
And he lives in the country.
And he lives in the country, so it's really imperative that we face the issue and try and fix it for safety issues.
So that's what you had to do, was to, I use the word cure, advise, wean him away from being so frightened of anything that made a noise. Yeah.
And I think a horse like Mr. Wilson, he's very much what I call a mood hoover. So he will respond from his owner.
Yeah.
So if he can feel her tension, it will make him tense. And the other way around as well, if she can feel his heart rate on her leg, which is here on the other side, it will make the owner relatively stressed as well. So that combined can manifest this huge problem when they encounter anything with an engine.
Well, let's have a look at Mr. Wilson. We went along to see how Mr. Wilson was reacting on the day he arrived at Victoria's stables. Just take a look at this.
Yeah, so I look at Wilson, clearly he's very agitated with the mower around him. When I speak to Shella, his owner, she tells me that he's pretty much reactive to anything that's loud.
He can not want to go anywhere near them, plant himself, reverse. He's genuinely frightened, and he's run off sideways, gone into hedges, we've been backwards in ditches.
I've seen much worse, so I'm pretty sure we can fix this very quickly. They've got a great bond, and he really needs to know that he can trust her when it comes to machinery and noise. So I can see Wilson clearly running away from the mower, but he's consciously thinking the cogs are turning because he kind of wants to stop and watch. So it's not like a pure bolt where he'd run through a fence and, run off to France or Germany. He's staying with us, but he's conscious of what's around him. Shella's a great horsewoman. I don't think it's her that's affecting his energy and his stress. I think it's pure fear over the noise of the mower. So if we can fix this in a safe environment, and hopefully when she goes out there, she'll be more relaxed and he'll be a happier horse.
So this fear that we're seeing here, most people would think, well, that's incurable, you can't get over that.
There are not many horses that would not react with that kind of vehicle flying around them.
Yeah.
They all need training when it comes to tractors, big vehicles, cars. You start them off very young, taking them out on the road, but unless you work sort of flooding, I call it, when there's a huge problem, you flood the horse with that issue, it takes all the stress away. It works really well. Yeah.
Well, let's put that work you did with Mr. Wilson to the test. So he really was terrified then of anything with an engine, anything that made a noise. You've got a ride-on mower there.
Yeah.
They are not the quietest things on the road or things on the wheels.
And I haven't stuffed his ears with cotton wool, I promise.
Right, OK. So I'll just let him know I'm here so it doesn't work. So what are you going to do now then?
So I'm going to get on the mower and lead him away with me.
Well, that would have been impossible when he came to you.
Yeah.
He'd have been climbing that tree.
He would have, he would have been in France by now.
Righto, well, let's just watch you do what you do. So this is the result of Victoria's... Well, he's gone up to it, that's a start. It hasn't turned on yet, though. Let's wait and see what the reaction there is when the engine starts. Bit of a shake. Oh, what? You know, sometimes you see magic, don't you, in front of your very eyes. Now look at that. From a horse that wouldn't go anywhere near anything with a motor, that shied, that leapt up into the air, ran away, and he's now actually following Victoria. Fine. I mean, it's there for all to see. Such transformation. What's the first thing you need to do then when you meet a horse like that, before you can get it to this stage? Your first step is what?
The first step is creating a bond and a trust. And we do that using horse methods like they would in the wild with one another. So there's always a dominant one in a herd of horses, wild horses. You. So that's me. Yeah, so when they've worked that out, they will make a contract with you using a silent language that tends to be, again, body language, lots of chewing. The head goes down, one ear goes forward, one ear goes back, and at that point you turn your back to the horse after sending them away. So it's called a join-up. The horse has to follow you like a dog, but without the lead. And then you face the problem. So that's what we did. We did the join-up first to create the bond, and then we got on the mower. And because I was laughing and didn't care, he was like, oh, well, why should I care? It was
so you've got to establish a bond, though, before he can see what you're doing, and that sort of leads him to think, well, I could do that as well, then, in a way.
Yes, he sees and feels how relaxed I am, so it makes him more relaxed. And there was a slight other method that we used called the pressure method. So if you noticed, if he stopped, I took a pull with the rope. Mm-hmm. As soon as he moves forward, you let go of it. So he gets to know that any pressure means he has to walk forward, and when it's released, he can stop. So.
It sounds as though it takes infinite amounts of patience. How quickly can you get results?
Within half an hour.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I was thinking of days.
No, I try not to. Only takes one session, no.
He just takes you as being that leader of the pack, regardless of the fact that you're human rather than equine.
Yes, he knows I'm assertive, I know what I want, I know who I am, and that's what they require, that's what they crave.
Enormously satisfying from your point of view.
Totally rewarding, yeah. I don't feel that this is a job to me. It's in my blood, and it's a huge part of my life, and I feel it's healed me in so many ways, and it carries on doing that every day. Absolutely fascinating.
Thank you, Victoria. Mr. Wilson, you're a shining example of a glorious horse that wasn't, but now is. Well done. Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.
Still ahead, well, she'd whisper to plants if she thought it'd do any good. Camilla Bassett-Smith shouting out the wonders of June's gardening diary with some lovely exotics too. And hysterically funny and a royal favourite, Omid Jalili, on getting the thumbs up from Her Late Majesty in a moment of TV history. I'll see you with Omid and much more right after this. Welcome back to Love Your Weekend. Coming up, she's 1/4 of an acting dynasty with an impressive career that started as a floor scrubber in the 1980s classic The Missionary. I don't judge. The very respectable Sophie Thompson on the return of the equally respectable Mrs. Dunn in Julian Fellowes' Belgravia, the next chapter. Also coming up, the man whose water sports activities aim to transform lives thanks to adaptive surf sessions. Ian Bennett's story coming up later. But first, a very special moment, and one that I think we all remember, especially my next guest, who in front of millions of viewers got the royal seal of approval when he had our late Queen giggling in the royal box during one of her final appearances before the eyes of the world.
The reign of James I was beset with troubles. The notorious gunpowder plot was just one of them when Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament, a famous British failure still celebrated to this day. For other countries, failure is a cause of national disgrace. For the British, it is an excuse for a party!
It was such a special night, wasn't it? We were both there doing our bit, and we were all standing at the side when you went on thinking, what's he going to do now in front of the Queen?
I know, and it was a moment where I think, because she'd blown off the state opening of Parliament, as we that very last bit when we walked up, and it just popped into my head, and I just thought, what would Titchmarsh do? I said Titchmarsh would just do it and take the consequences. So I just said, thank you so much for choosing us over the state opening of Parliament, and she laughed, and I think she did that with her hand. I think.
Shall we see?
Did she do that? I think she acknowledged it.
This is what happened.
Your Royal Highness, on behalf of everyone here, we'd like to very humbly thank you for choosing us over the state opening of Parliament. You did the right thing, and I won £5 in a bet with my local kebab shop owner in Ipswich.
You could have been sent to the Tower for calling her Your Royal Highness.
Yeah, it should be Your Majesty. But although I was told, this is the interesting thing, I did my research, that heralds can call her Your Royal Highness. Yes, that's why. So it could have been a very embarrassing moment, and depending on what newspaper you read, the Daily Mail said that meant, like, off with his head. But it could have also meant, as the Sun did, like, oh, you are awful, but I like you.
I had a moment too. I was tasked with saying the line that, thank you, Your Majesty, you're the beating heart of the nation.
Yes.
Well, the Queen, being modest, made some sort of facial, you know, as you would.
Yes.
Then I was then reported as having offended her. You know, oh, give over, you know. And she was the beating heart of the nation. She was just being modest. But looking back now, for both of us, I think, very special to be
It was a special evening because it was I think it was one of the last times she was out and about in public. And in fact, if you remember, I was doing a warm-up for the crowd, and I maybe rightly or wrongly, I said that this could be the last time we see her. So when she comes in, let's give her a really good, like, cheer, because usually when the cavalcade comes in, everyone's quiet and it's all reverential. But this time when she came in, I mean, there was no roof there, but if there was a roof, it would have been blown off. And the horses were spooked. And apparently she said afterwards that really meant a lot to her. She really was quite stunned by the love she got.
The reaction from the crowd, you could feel it, couldn't you? You could touch it, it was tangible. Very special. But the thing is, it seems to me, you always want to push boundaries. I mean, just doing this tour, just come back from Canada doing this tour, Namaste.
Yes.
And I was reading about it, and it said, Homage Lily is cross.
Yes.
I suppose we're all a bit cross at the moment, aren't we?
I think, look, at the end of the day, stand-up comedy is a wonderful form to try and make sense of things. I know things like The Daily Show in America, where it's a comedy show, but young people tune in to get their news from it. So comedy is a great way to get messages across, to make sense, especially as someone who's in the middle between Britain and the Middle East. I'm trying to make sense of it for people in the West, and it went down so well in Canada. We put on extra shows because people are genuinely not just cross, but don't know what to think. They're being pulled one side or another. The people think they should be making a choice, but in fact, we have made a choice. We're on the side of humanity. That's the most important thing. And stand-up comedy, if you can put messages and clothe it in some humour, that bitter pill is, the pill of understanding is swallowed more easily.
Have current sensitivities made it more difficult to be funny, made you more cautious, or in your case, never cautious? But I mean, you know, particularly depending on where you are in the world, there are places you don't want to go and other places you can go, depending on the nature of your audience. I
think that you have to know your audience. You can't just rock up and like burn an American flag in America. You can't just do that. Even if it's for comedy purposes, you've got to do it in a certain way, but I wouldn't do that anyway. You've got to know your audience, but also you've got to know what's current. So I stay up with current affairs, and you don't want to... Comedians want to make people laugh. You want to bring joy, you want to bring happiness. You don't want to offend. I often used to say, I hate to offend. It's just a gift. It's a gift I have, and it's just something that happens. I think the older I get, the worse it becomes. But I think people do look to that. They look to the people who don't care anymore, who feel their reputations have gone, who've put on weight, who've lost their hair. They don't care. They just want to bring joy to people, and these are the people you should be listening to. Moments that you treasure, apart from that one, which is obviously one to treasure, there must be moments that they think, I am on fire tonight. Were there moments where you think, moments you will always remember as, I can't believe it went that well? Yes, there was once I did a show in front of Bill Clinton. I think Clinton was asked to watch me. It was a big event somewhere, and they said, wait here, wait till Clinton comes. And Clinton saw my set, and afterwards he goes, that young man was fantastic, and I'm going to be using his jokes. And I remember telling to the FBI guy, he goes, "What's he going to use my joke?" He goes, "He's going to do that." I said, "No, he's not. It's my joke." He goes, "You should be really happy, the ex-president." I said, "No, I want money. I'm there with the guy with the gun." I goes, "I want money for it." He goes, what's the joke?" He goes, "I think it's your circumcision joke." I said, "He's not even circumcised. He's going to use my joke." I got really angry. So I was arguing with this FBI guy. But it was great that he enjoyed it. And I did another show in front of him and Tony Blair at the Met. The Met, there was a Met ball, and I did some stand-up there. So I think sometimes the more high-profile the guests, it's like, if Chelsea weren't very good, but if they play Manchester United and Man City, they raise their game. So I think that's we like that. We like to have our games raised with people in the audience.
From your point of view, a relief in a way then, I guess, that when you do, as you have done, films, musicals, to work with somebody else's script, it takes some degree of pressure off in terms of it's not all invented. Yeah. So to rely on a good script, and you've found this amazing career in musicals now, and I came to see you at Chichester.
Did you? Wow.
As Teviot in Fiddler on the Roof, which it was an absolute blast. I still think that Fiddler on the Roof is one of the most affecting, powerful shows, musical shows, in existence.
It is.
As Teviot, the milkman, and his daughters that his wife is anxious for him to marry off.
Actually, at the time, it was just around 2017 when there were a lot of migrants coming over from Syria. So it was a very important piece at that particular time, because we were trying to say this whole thing of migration, people don't go unless they have to. Yeah. Like a lot of people then were getting away from the Middle East because of war. They were being bombed. They didn't really want to come, and we were kind of demonizing those people in the same way the Jews were being demonized back then. And that story is so universal. There's about 8 touring productions of Fiddler on the Roof in Japan. For some reason, Japan loves this story. It fits in with their history. So there's a universal story there, which I think really chimes with everyone.
I can't watch Sunrise, Sunset without weeping.
Yeah, it was very difficult to do that without crying.
So strong. I want to show you a clip of a film you're in called The Mummy.
Oh, The Mummy.
Which apparently was extraordinarily uncomfortable.
It wasn't. It's the 25th year anniversary.
That's right, yeah.
It was about 50-degree heat. We shouldn't have been filming,
50
actually.
degrees. Let's have a look at it.
Terrible.
Step over the threshold. Welcome to Cairo prison, my humble home.
You told me that you got it on a dig-down theme.
No, well, I was mistaken.
You lied to me.
I lie to everybody. What makes you so special?
I am your sister.
Yes, well, that just makes you more gullible.
Jonathan, you stole it from a drunk at the local Casbah.
Picked his pocket, actually, so I don't think
Jonathan,
it's a very
will you
good
stop
idea.
being so ridiculous? Now, what exactly is this man in prison for?
Well, this I did not know. But when I heard you were coming, I asked him that myself.
Yalla!
And what did he say?
He said he was just looking for a good time.
This is the man that you stole it from?
Yes, exactly. So why don't we just go sniff out spot of Tiffin?
Who are you? And who's the broad?
Bro.
Well, I'm just local sort of missionary chap, spreading the good word and all that. But this is my sister, Evie.
How do you do?
Oh, well, guess she's not a total loss.
I beg your pardon.
I'll be back in a moment.
That's called an exit. Do you know what, actually, that first scene where I say, "Welcome to Cairo prison, step over the threshold," that was the very first scene of the movie shot. So as soon as they said cut there was a massive round of applause, because it was like, we're doing a movie now. Yeah. And that was the first time I was doing a Hollywood movie. So it was amazing that it was a close-up on me. So I've always been so... I've been narcissistic ever since.
Well, it's a better result than the Pirates of the Caribbean result.
Yes, it was, yeah. But that film, actually, you should know, Alan, that film, the reason why there's so much love for it is because I was told a couple of years later that it saved Universal Studios. Whenever a studio has films, they do about 10 or 11 films. They need about 4 or 5 hits, a few flops to balance up the books. But that year, they had 11 flops. Wow. And the studio was about to close, but then The Mummy came in, took about 600 million in the first year. It saved the studio. So they've got a lot of love for the film.
Yeah. Back to your musical career, because as well as Teviot, dear Cameron Mackintosh,
Oh, God.
You auditioned for Fagin in Oliver.
Well, can I tell you, the way it works is nobody auditions. The hand of God, the hand of Cameron says, I want you, but you have to then prove to me you can do it. Ooh. So I went in, I hadn't learnt anything. He goes, it's all right, darling, just go away and learn the songs, come back, we'll do it next month. I came in, I did it terribly, and he put his arm around me and goes, now listen, I know you can do this. I said, I don't want to. I can't do it. He goes, I know you can. I know you can, and you're going to be marvellous. I said, I really can't. And actually, there was this wave to make me do it, and before I knew it, I was doing it. And it just shows you, you know, what's for you won't go by you, that whole thing. So I didn't really want to do it, but my God, did I love it. Yeah. And I'm so thankful to him for turning a blind eye to my appalling audition. I clearly hadn't prepared, but he saw something in me, and he says, I think you can do it. I think you're going to be great in this. So I'm very thankful to him because I had a wonderful 5 months on it.
This is what Cameron saw.
Why should we break our backs stupidly paying tax? Better get some untaxed income. You better pick a pocket or two.
Why should we all break our backs? Better pick a pocket or two.
Well, Cameron's producing it again at Chichester this
Is he really?
summer. Yes, he is. So you haven't had the call.
I'm old and fat enough now. I actually was the fattest Fagin they've ever had. It's amazing.
Oddly, I don't know, I say oddly, I just think of you very much as a metropolitan person. You are now a countryman living in Suffolk.
Person. Yes, I'm in Suffolk, and I really love it there. And when I arrived, Ipswich were middle of League One, and now they're in the Premier League, and you know, a lot of people are saying it's the Omid Jalili effect. Actually, no one is, but I'm pushing that.
You are.
I am. I'm the one saying it. But there's something about living in the country which is it's calming. The people are lovely. There's a lovely sense of community. I think when we live in this life, we always flourish more when we're in a community. And country communities really, there's something about Britain, the goodness of Britain that I love, because when you're in a community, you flourish. I've never done better. I've never done better in my life since I've moved.
So you think that's helping to fuel the comedy?
Energetically, I think moving to the country has helped me stand up, just stand up to the plate and do what I think is right. And the stand-up comedy is where my heart is right now. It's what I want to be doing. And from what I've been hearing from people, they're saying, you've got to go back on the road and tell us what you think of it to make sense of all this craziness around us.
Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Keep making sense of it. Keep making it.
That's right.
Because we need it. Bless your heart.
Thank you.
Omid Jalili. Now, a simple click and the scene is captured. It's time for Walk on the Wild Side. Oh, they are spectacular. Please keep emailing them in. We really appreciate everyone showcasing your passion for nature and the wildlife and scenery around us. I have to say, it's one of my favourite parts of the show. Still ahead, through tattered clothes, small vices do appear. Robes and furred gowns hide all. King Lear knew a thing or two about that, as did the Royal Shakespeare Company. That was my audition I was just doing then. We'll be seeing some of their wonderful costumes with a man who's worn a fair few in his time. Co-artistic director Daniel Evans is here later. And June is the month of weeding and watering, but it's not all toil in the soil. Camilla Bassett-Smith rejoices in the garden's most magical month with her June diary and some exotic plants as well. I'll be here with Camilla and her palms right after this. To quote Rodgers and Hammerstein, June is busting out all over, and June is a particularly beautiful month in Britain. The days are at their longest and the weather is generally relatively pleasant and warm. Well, it is today anyway. Nature puts on a stunning display at this time of year. It's a time for being outdoors and soaking up the peace and optimism of the early summer, and soaking up all of that here at Manor Farm. Well, coming up, we are cordially invited to sample some very posh pop in today's Best of British. Andy Clark's making watered-down orange squash a thing of the past as he excites our palates with surprising fruit-based spritzers. And she spent more time in stately homes than a National Trust tour guide. From Emma to Persuasion via Gosford Park and Nicholas Nickleby. Give her a costume, she'll make it a drama. Sophie Thompson on her brilliant career. But first, it's time for your Voice of Nature. Here's Joe Sugg with The Race of the Flowers by William Brighty Rands.
The trees and the flowers seem running a race, but none treads down the other, and neither thinks it his disgrace to be later than his brother. Yet the pear tree shouts to the lilac tree, make haste, for the spring is late, and the lilac whispers to the chestnut tree, because he is so great. Pray you, great sir, be quick, for down below we are blossoming thick. Then the chestnut hears and comes out into bloom, white or pink to the tip-top boughs. Oh, why not grow higher? There's plenty of room, you beautiful tree with the sky for your house. Then like music they seem to burst out together, the little and the big, with a beautiful burst. They sweeten the wind, they paint the weather, and no one remembers which was first.
Thank you, Joe. A poem vividly describing the pace at which nature comes to life at this time of year. And that momentum of growth means it's time to flip over the pages of our gardening calendar to see what features in this month's horticultural to-do list. Here with her June diary is Camilla Bassett-Smith. It's the palmy season then, is it?
It is. And I thought today we might go on holiday, Alan. But I thought
God. Well, you've got your frock on.
Here. I have indeed. I've got my sun hat.
I know, the bobble hats have gone. Hurrah!
Yeah, they're the thing of the past because the sun is out.
Right.
But I thought we'd go on holiday, but stay here with plants that make us think of holiday time. Starting off with the agaves. Now, these are plants that I think people would look at and think, well, surely they can't go in our garden because they're not hardy. Now, not all of them are hardy, but some of them are. And aren't they a thing of beauty?
They are, as long as you don't touch them.
I know.
If you've got children, I find if you take your parasecators, these very, very sharp spikes, you can cut them off just there with the parasecators so they're no longer, you know, sharp and lethal, really. Yeah. But it won't do the plant any harm. Purists will object, but...
Well, it's a good idea, though, from safety point of view. This one is the Agave montana and has that really pretty patterning on the back of the leaves.
Yes, where they've all been folded
Yes, it is. They've left that shadow almost on them, which is really exciting. Yeah. And I think if you're planting them outside, plant them on a slope so they can get good drainage, which is a really good thing to do. Or in a pot as well is quite clever. But moving away from the agaves, which are gorgeous, to palms. And this one is a good old favourite, isn't it? This is the Trachycarpus fortunei.
Yeah, the Chuzan palm. Now that's about the hardiest palm for this country, isn't it?
It is, it really is. So you can get away with keeping this out all year round. If you put it in the garden, it can get very tall, can't it?
It can. I've got 3 of them on the Isle of Wight, and I planted them when they were that big, and they're now that really big after about 10 years. Like, so they go up and up and up and up and up.
They do, and they have this amazing trunk when they go up. And I think the word trachis actually is Old Greek for rough, the rough texture of the trunk that you get. But these gorgeous palm-shaped, fan-shaped leaves And I just love them. I think they're so good.
Well,
in
if
a
you
pot.
want to feel that you're, you know, the sort of tropical feel, I mean, palms are just good for as provided they're hardy. Now, this one isn't quite so hardy, is it?
No, it's not. The Phoenix canariensis, the Canary Island date palm from the Canary Islands. But where this one lacks in hardiness, I think it makes up for in its spreading fountain shape.
And you do see it in London gardens, for instance, where the city heat keeps the temperature up.
And this is quite a small example, but I have one in my conservatory.
Can you get in your conservatory?
Not really. There's a lot of ducking and sort of, being careful. But they're so architectural, aren't they? They really are. And I think the best thing to do is to, if you have them in the garden, keep them in the garden in the summer. Now they look so great, but then bring them in.
In an empty tub or pot?
Yes, exactly, over winter. But I love them, they're so gorgeous.
And then you've got this beauty, Dazzilirium.
Yes. Now, I must admit, I haven't grown this one, but just look at that shape. It's the Mexican grass tree, and it doesn't get too big. So in contrast, this is one that will only get to maybe 1.5 metres. So very easy to grow, likes good drainage and a sunny spot. But again, it reminds me, do you know in the 1970s, they had those fibre optic lamps?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That wiggled and the light came on the end of
exactly.
the...
Exactly. So much choice that you could go for. But I thought we'd do a little bit of planting up as normal, Alan.
Now, this always looks tropical and it's tough as old boots. My mum and dad were given a false castor oil plant, Fatsia, when they got married in 1947 up in Yorkshire. And they were told, oh, it's a bit tender. Well, they didn't like it very much, so they put it out in the garden. It was still there when I left home at the end of the 60s.
Oh, how wonderful. And quite big by then, I guess.
Yeah, they occasionally up there got hammered by frost, but it always came back from the bottom.
And how great, the fact that it was growing up there proves how hardy they really are. Yet they don't look it, do they? They really do look like something you'd see in a tropical rainforest.
Now, this is that one called Spider's Web, which generally has more white variegation on it. I suspect this has been grown undercover and it hasn't properly coloured up.
If
network of white. It's quite lovely.
It's white veins on it. So if you get a little bit more light on it, then it should whiten up. But you've got so we've got green and orange. I mean, really, I should have the orange because it matches my outfit. But I thought,
I like a bit of colour.
Well,
this is gorgeous, isn't it?
So the kumquat there. Now it's a sort of citrus relative.
Yeah.
Now I've never tried a kumquat. Have you?
I think you're about to.
Oh, okay.
Do you know? I'll confess. No. I know I should have.
You can eat them. You can make jam from them.
Okay, you are going to see this for a TV first. We are told you can eat a kumquat straight from
the rind and everything.
1, 2, 3. Oh,
it's like a grapefruit.
It's not quite so tart. It's hugely juicy.
It is juicy in the centre. But actually,
it's quite fun actually.
The skin is fine, isn't it?
There's pippy in the middle.
Yeah.
The rind, the peel is lovely. It's a bit like a crystallised fruit.
It's crunchy. Well, that was fun. Anyway,
no, it was. Try, but make sure it's a kumquat.
Yes.
They're slightly oval. You can see the shape of them. And when this one isn't ripe, so that won't be nice. But when they're really rich green, as opposed to this one, which is just on the turn, can you see? But isn't it handsome? It's a pretty plant.
It's really pretty. And I think in Chinese means golden orange, so you can see why. And they're like these little mini oranges, and really pretty in the summer. Again, would need protection in the winter, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So having had a feed, I'm going to go for red and green. So I've got some pelargoniums. You can't go wrong with them, really.
Oh, I love them.
This one's called Mojo, actually.
You're
a little
putting
squeeze.
Guardsman scarlet geraniums.
I'm going to put him around the side there.
Like the ones they have outside Buckingham Palace to match the Guardsman's
and I think they're really good, you know. I think people need to plant more pelargoniums.
You can be too lily-livered with your colour schemes, can't you? You know, white and pale pink and pale blue.
I've got a verbena here as well, a trailing one, which I'm going to
Now, they're crackers. You know, 3 different kinds of plants when you're planting up a container. The thrillers. This is a thriller.
Yes, yeah.
The fillers, like the pelargonium, and the
spiller, which would be this, wouldn't it?
Go over the edge.
Down the side. Yeah. This is quite fun.
I, on the other hand, am just going to use a plant which is much reviled, which is the French marigold. And the thing about them is, if you look at them, you'll see that aside from this single flower on the top, the main middle one, there's lots more come round the edges. It will carry on flowering right the way through the summer. And if you smell the roots, they're quite astringent.
Oh, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
I've never smelt the root.
Well, particularly the small flowered one. If you plant them among your tomatoes, they help repel whitefly because they don't. But they've got to be in the same soil as
and
a
I didn't
tomato.
realise the roots thing either. I thought it was just all from the flower.
And people are so rude about French marigolds. Do you like them?
I do, because they're bright.
Me too.
And I think at the end of the day, something that brings colour to a border for a long period of time and is easy to get hold of and inexpensive for anybody, so accessible for any gardeners, it's got to be a good thing.
I decided I would stick up for the French marigold, so I wrote a poem about it.
Did you?
Would you like to hear it?
I'd love. Well, I'd be in trouble if I said no, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you would, really. And so this is the marigold speaking, right, OK? Right. Common, yes, some do say that. My accent is a pain. I drop my H's and my T's, can't say the rain in Spain. But when it comes to colour, ooh, I've got it by the bucket. And if you don't like orange flowers, all I can say is what a shame.
I can't follow that.
No, you can't really. It's just as well I didn't go the way you thought it was going, isn't it, really? Love it on a bit of colour. Thank you, Camilla. Now, with their brightly coloured beaks, silky smooth coats and a distinctive call, puffins are a familiar sight in spring as many migrate to Britain's northerly islands. Here to tell us more, someone who's just as bright, silky and distinctive. It's Leslie Joseph with today's Coastal Chronicle, the puffin.
Good morning, Alan. Today we are saying hello to this charismatic little fellow, dressed to the nines in his glossy black dinner jacket and crisp white bib. This week's star is none other than the Atlantic puffin. Oh, just look at him. Sophisticated, suave, quite the stud puffin. And would you look at those orange legs? Wowzers! Affectionately known as sea parrots, it's no surprise they're a fan favourite with those cute, rotund features and that comical gait. Oh gosh, Puffin, you really are the colourful clown of our coastline. Can we just take a moment to admire that beak? The bright colours, wedgy proportions, the bold profile. Oh, I love a show-off. Puffins use their colourful bill to attract a mate. The male with the brightest bill is considered the most handsome. Yet behind this head-turning bravado also lies a unique working tool. Puffins can hold an average of 10 fish at once, but the record is an astonishing 62. Puffin pairs will rear a single chick, a black, fluffy puffling. Oh, have you ever heard anything more adorable in all your life? A puffling. Pufflings will live underground for 6 weeks. Then, one night, they will emerge. At this point, they can't fly properly, so they descend the cliff and paddle out to sea. But listen to this. It will be 2 to 3 years before they make another journey back to land. I repeat, 2 to 3 years. Well, I never. They don't reach sexual maturity until the age of 4 or 5. Puffins mate for life and regularly cement their relationship with mutual billing. No, that's not offering to pay for dinner. It's tapping their beaks together. Oh, this loving behaviour can attract a crowd of other puffins as onlookers, one of which may even try to join in. A fight may break out if one of the pair rejects the interloper. It's all for show, all huffin and puffin. So, that's much ado about Puffin. Well, we all love a bit of Shakespeare. Back to you, Alan.
Thanks, Leslie. Aren't they lovely? And did you know that puffins can paddle on the surface of the ocean like ducks, but when they dive, they flap their wings to produce a forward thrust. Every puffin thinks it's Tom Daly. Coming up, more distinctive looks of the theatrical kind. The Royal Shakespeare Company's costumes are admired the world over. Today, we're getting a glimpse at some of those treasures for ourselves, courtesy of Daniel Evans, the co-artistic director. I'll see you with Daniel and those theatrical threads right after this. Welcome back to Manor Farm. Coming up, Olivier Award-winning actress Sophie Thompson on everything from Shakespeare to Coward to Richard Curtis. It's 30 years since she delighted us in 4 weddings, tying the knot with Bernard and Father Gerald, he of the awful wedded wife. Seems like yesterday, doesn't it, really? But first, founded in 1961, the Royal Shakespeare Company has staged over 200 productions of the Bard's most famous works on its stages in Stratford-upon-Avon. Add to those numerous worldwide tours and residencies around the UK, and you get a lot of actors who all need dressing. Luckily, the RSC's costume department is world-renowned for its creations and attention to detail. With me now, Daniel Evans, the co-artistic director, who also cut his teeth on stage, acting in some of the company's most lauded productions. Daniel, you went there, I'm not going to say how old you are now, but how old were you when you started at the RSC?
I was 20. I left drama school early to go to the RSC. It was my first job. And what an amazing first job it was.
But now you get to play with all the toys as artistic director. I mean, that's a heck of a climb, isn't it?
I celebrated my 21st birthday there, and last year I celebrated my 50th. So it's very strange for me.
But it's a responsibility too, isn't it? I mean,
Huge.
the country's leading. You've got the National Theatre, but when it comes to Shakespeare, here you are then, it's all yours, and what a canon.
Indeed, and we're really standing on the shoulders of giants. You know, Peter Hall founded the RSC as we know it now in '61 as a company that does classical work and new work too. And we really are, you know, following in the footsteps of all of those people that have gone before us.
And you've got the main stage there, the Memorial Theatre, you've got the Swan, and you've got the other place. I mean, is it just 3, or have you got more now?
Well, actually, this summer we will build another one. So we have a garden theatre, the Holloway Garden Theatre, which is an open-air theatre.
Oh, lovely.
Where we'll do very short Shakespeare, so an hour and 20 minutes. You know, for day trippers to Stratford, and the tickets are just £20. So that's as you like it this summer.
A lot of folk will love that because everybody's talking about seat prices in London. You need up to £250, £350 for a seat. And if 4 of you are going up, you're paying, I won't go on. But you know what I mean? So it's good to hear that there is affordable theatre for everyone. It's a national legacy. It's nice that everyone can enjoy it. But they do like a well-dressed play.
They do.
And it's wonderful. I'm always terribly fascinated by both props and scenery and costumes when you see them close too.
Yeah.
So a lot of the old ones, of course, armour.
Yes.
It's difficult to wear, isn't it? When you're acting in something that's clunking around like this, you know, it really rather hampers your performance if you're not careful, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose we're so lucky because we're one of the few theatres in the UK, in fact, one of the only ones, that has an in-house armoury. So Alan, who's our armourer, has such expertise and knowledge in this area, whether it's in leatherwork or metalwork or fiberglass or whatever. So actually the actor's comfort is a big part of what they look after.
And it's quite light. Now I've picked it up. It's not nearly as heavy as you might think it is.
It wouldn't probably protect you from, you know, arrows in an actual
The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
Exactly.
I'm not auditioning, but I just wanted to let you know.
It's an open invitation, Alan. Anytime you want to come out, please.
Be very careful about saying things like that. I'll stand there with a spear, very quietly, very happily. Talking about weapons, I mean, you are going to star in Marlowe's Edward II.
Yes.
Now, if you don't know the plot of Edward II, look it up.
Yeah, no spoilers.
No, but this is a poker.
It's a poker, and it was to do with his unfortunate ending, his death, shall we say.
Well, in more ways than one, really.
And this was a prop that was from a production in '89, where Sir Simon Russell Beale played Edward II, which I saw as a teenager when I used to come up from South Wales. So again, following in the footsteps of the greats.
Well, I interviewed Simon Russell Beale on the stage of the Swan, and he taught me when I was doing Pebble Mill how to play the fop. Do you remember Simon always played it in all his restoration comedies?
Right at the beginning of his career.
Exactly. Well, I was there, as they say in Wales. And such a great actor. So to watch Simon and yourself, having seen you in Candide at the National, 2 awards, Olivier Awards yourself for Sondheim. I mean,
I'm going to blush.
How's the mantelpiece? Does it look good?
They're just on a shelf somewhere, so we're modest.
Don't tell me that. Door stops in the loo or whatever. This one everybody knows, Daniel, and this is glorious. Bottom's Head from Midsummer. Look, from Midsummer Night's Dream.
Those ears are good, aren't they?
Aren't they glorious?
And we've had, you know, loads of great actors give us their bottom over years. Over the years. So Pete Postlethwaite and Des Barrett. And just recently, Matt Bainton, who was an amazing bottom.
I love Desmond Barrett. He was such a great actor. And got this wonderful... It's, you know, I'm right up close here with this. And it really does look like a large ass's like donkey. You know, the fur looks like donkey. But I love the ears going
Again,
there.
our props costume workshop, they're experts there. We're so lucky to have them.
And then when you get to the royal plays, of course.
Yes.
The head that is crowned. You see, I've always fancied myself in a regal role. In maybe this wasn't made for me.
Well, maybe, yeah, that Henry V. This was from Henry V. Alex Hassel. So his head was a little bigger than yours.
Yeah, fine. I'm not going to pass a comment on that. No. I've looked at the list of what you're doing this year. So you were appointed last year, 2023. So this year, you can fill in the gaps, Sam Levy.
Yes.
You're doing Hamlet, you're doing King Lear, you're doing The Merry Wives of Windsor, you're doing Othello, you're doing... I mean, you've picked all the big hitters, haven't you, really? You're not sort of starting slowly, you're going in with the lot.
We wanted to make a statement. We've announced a whole year's worth of work, and The Merry Wives plays in rep with the School for Scandal. Yes. So we wanted to have a restoration comedy in there as well, and so we've got these 2 glorious comedies happening this summer. So we just wanted to make sure that we could reach everyone at some point during the year.
But these are the costumes that are sort of part prop, if you like, but then you come to what you might call the full Monty. So if you're wearing something like this as an actor, Daniel, I mean, it helps, doesn't it, to inhabit the role. Beautiful.
Totally. It teaches you how to walk, actually. You have to walk differently. In fact, in the School for Scandal this summer, the costumes, the crinolines apparently are 2 meters wide. So we're going to have to adjust some of the doors because we don't know how the women are going to get through them. But you can see the level of detail here from our costume department.
And I'm up close. You know, the audience is going to be over there.
Yeah.
So whose is this?
This is from a production of The Fantastic Follies of Mrs. Rich. This designed by Colin Richmond from the Restoration period.
Yes.
And you can hire them. So people can actually, you know, you can wear a corset that Judi Dench wore in a production, or you can write in...
No, I couldn't bring myself to. My wife might.
I wouldn't. You can, I'm sure you could.
Squeeze me into one of Jude's corsets. Yeah.
And it's fun, you know, people, all kinds of people, whether it's, you know, amateur dramatic companies or individuals just wanting a night out that's on a theme.
But just bring it back in good order with that no red wine spilled.
Yes, please.
That's beautiful. Now, this one is a little bit more sort of austere. What have we got here?
This was worn by David Tennant and Richard II, so from a high medieval period.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, another royal play.
Yeah. Oh, look. I'm taller than David Tennant. There aren't many people I'm taller than.
But again, he had a great long blonde wig. I don't know if you remember it.
Yes,
but
I do.
He was stunning.
I do. Look, and it's the 2 layer. You don't see this glorious sort of under length of fabric here, which is beautiful. So David Tennant, we're working through.
And then we were going to Lydia Leonard.
Oh, now Lydia's one of my favourite actresses.
This is from Wolf Hall. So this is the costume for Anne Boleyn.
Yes.
So Tudor, obviously, more traditional. Yeah. And you can see much plainer than the Restoration period over there.
But with beautiful pearl beading.
Very, very simple, but great detail.
It was
all of these pleats.
And these sleeves, complex sleeves.
And speaking of this one, you can see the waist here is very cinched in.
Yeah.
Some of the women in the period couldn't breathe.
What a fainting going on.
Thank goodness it's not like that now.
And now for something completely different. And this is this is not a period piece, or not a period we know.
No, absolutely contemporary. And this is a costume for Hamlet, which was worn by Papa Essiedu, designed by Paul Wills, and is a really great example of the work of our painting and costume dyeing department.
Yeah.
So you can see all of the work that's gone into the dye work, and apparently something like 600 kilograms of salt are used by that department every year in the process of dyeing all the materials.
To have all these skills at your disposal, wonderful.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah. The very best of luck. Good on you for doing so many tickets. I mean,
important.
everybody should see this. Indeed. Daniel, the very best of luck.
Thank
you so much for bringing your treasures to share with us in our humble barn.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Pleasure. For people living with disabilities, improving access to our countryside and coastlines is vitally important, allowing everyone the same opportunities as each other. Today's countryside hero is Ian Bennett, who through his water sports activities aims to transform lives thanks to adaptive surf sessions. We went along to see how Ian and a very special charity are helping 2 people, George and Cliff, to enjoy a life on the ocean wave.
George is like a rainbow. He's so happy, he's always smiling, just such a kind, caring, loving boy. So George has got quadriplegic cerebral palsy, he's epileptic, he's severely sight impaired and developmentally delayed. He needs support with absolutely everything, from when he first wakes up in the morning through to getting washed, eating.
Good.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. So I think growing up by the sea, all your friends go surfing. It was just a little bit frustrating for him, and it was also for us as his parents as well, that he wasn't able to access the same sports that some of his peers could. So when we had a little think about it and sort of thought, how could we get George into the ocean, we found out about Ian and everything that he was doing in the water.
The VOE project is a young person's mental health charity, and its aims is to improve the mental health and the resilience of young people. Here in North Devon and a couple of other locations around the country, we are focusing on adaptive surfing that makes the ocean and the surfing of sport itself a much more inclusive sport. Nearly 7 years ago, George's mum, Nikki, she gave me a call and asked if I could take her son surfing. She told me that he had cerebral palsy and lots of other conditions that he was dealing with, so I was a little bit scared. We took George out for the first time on a standard 9-foot foam surfboard, which is what everybody else in the surf schools use. But we realised actually we needed different equipment to make it much more accessible. So we worked with a local shaper to think about what's the best type of board. We came up with this great board with a seat, and I think we haven't looked back from that moment. Surfing in North Devon, you know, it's just what children do. So it was like, yeah, I think we can get George surfing.
I don't think we can quantify what it's like for a child like George to have that freedom in the water.
And I think that's enabled way more people that would never have thought they could get into the sea to actually enter the ocean. And then we have lots of other equipment like our beach access wheelchairs, and all of those things together, along mainly with our massively loyal, committed volunteers, they enable us to get most people in the water.
George is really the poster boy, and George was the start of it with Ian, and working with George, it's a massive sense of satisfaction. I mean, the moment volunteers queue up for George, and we all come away with a big dose of happiness after working with George.
Before he had the stroke, Cliff was a real sportsman. He was really a fantastic art and graphic designer. Surfing loads and loads, had a massive passion for sports, and then unfortunately one night he was found, had a severe stroke and thought that he wouldn't survive. He lost his speech, the use of his left arm and the use of his left leg. And now we're sort of like 10 years down the line, Cliff has improved so much. When I see Cliff in the surf catching the waves, it's electrifying. It's like opening a can of like, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is amazing. I love this. So all the instructors and helpers and volunteers are just like hypnotised by his joy. He's free. What Ian's brought for Cliff is quality of life, and his dream of surfing, which he thought was never going to come back. Both Cliff and I have really benefited massively from this huge charity, and his really big heart for bringing us all in.
You make me run.
I'm grateful for it.
We all love the ocean, and we know like the benefits that it gives to us, and so if we can make that accessible to more people, that's just really our aim.
Catching those waves and not be strapped in a wheelchair, which he spends a lot of his everyday life doing, that to me just means everything.
Oh, thanks to Ian and all involved in that inspiring charity, and to George and Cliff for letting us join in their surf sessions, rather them than me. Still to come, today's Best of British will be a bit of a squash, not because we're squeezing it in, but it's thanks to Andy Clark and his thirst-quenching cordials that are reinventing what we imagine the mixers to be. And from the hypochondriac sister in Persuasion to a twittering spinster in Emma to the glumphing and insatiable Lydia in Four Weddings, Sophie Thompson on an award-winning career working with the greats and making metal detecting cool. I just hope she enjoys our cordials. Do you remember hers in Detectorist? I'll see you with Sophie for some genteel chat right after this. Welcome back to Love Your Weekend. On the way, the often overlooked mixer that's having a refreshing renaissance. Andy Clark and his posh squash masterclass with some of the best cordials on the market and how you can enjoy them with everything from water to whiskey and everything in between, especially in glorious sunny weather like this. First though, my final guest this morning, and as careers go, well, she's enjoyed more bucket list moments than most. A star of stage and screens large and small, we've seen her in soaps, cooking competitions and all manner of movies and TV series. And when it comes to starting your movie career, it's never a bad thing making your debut in front of the dame herself.
Excuse me, is the Reverend Fortescue here, please? I would like to see him.
Well, he's upstairs, asleep, Mum.
But it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, well, go and have a see if he's...
I think he should be awake by now, don't you? Up here?
I suppose so, yeah.
Excuse me.
The missionary, I mean, you in your very first film, working with Dame Maggie Smith, who, by all accounts, I mean, I've met her once or twice and she's a lovely person, but I think to act opposite, particularly in a situation like that, where you are, by virtue of your role, subservient to her, it's kind of double grand, isn't it?
Literally. No acting required. Very young, very terrified, amazing woman, amazing actress, admiration oozing. Yeah, as I say, no acting required.
Does it make it more difficult as an actor to get into a role when the actor you're playing opposite has a reputation, regardless of what that reputation is, or a fame that's enormous? Does it affect your concentration and the way in which you approach your part, depending on the magnitude, if you like, of the person you're opposite?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know whether it should, but it probably does to begin with. And then if they're good, which they are, I mean, by dint of being where they are, like Mags, then they're usually just inspirational, I think. Yeah. You know, it's just you're always learning, and working with good people is what you want to be doing.
Your game.
And yeah, hopefully it does. Yeah. And just being in their midst and watching them work, yeah, hopefully you're something rubs off.
And if you can get the delight from it as well, of actually sort of being in the same space as somebody that you admire like that, to sort of try and suppress the fear, accept the little bit of it that lifts your performance, and just think, you know, what a wonderful delight to be able to play opposite someone like Maggie Smith.
Exactly, you're right, Alan, that's it, delight.
Yeah. And you go up market in Belgravia, because we're going to see, they've seen it in the States, I think, already.
Yeah.
Julian Fellowes of Belgravia. Mrs. Dunn in Belgravia.
Yes.
A widow.
A widow, yes. And not from great wealth, but is assisted with her move to Belgravia, or nearby, by a wealthy friend of her deceased husband. She's got these two daughters, and of course, in them days, the girls didn't have the opportunities that we're lucky to be afforded with now, given half the chance. And they moved to a little place in London, and they get in with the Belgravia crowd because I've got these two exquisite daughters, Hannah Onslow and Harriet Slater, who were just fantastic.
You need to marry them off well, presumably.
I know, that was in the day.
Nice to wear a bit of a posher frock.
Oh, I love a posh frock. Although you're restricted, of course, because you're in these corsets, real styly corsets, so it can get quite achy. But I do love a costume because it's so helpful for the pretending.
Yeah.
Because really we're just pretending and playing, and the further away your costume is from what you wear day to day, it transports you and
so
helps.
refreshing to hear an actor talk about we're actually only pretending.
We're only pretending.
I do think that when I look at some of these enormous great awards programmes, yeah, but you're just pretending, really, aren't you? You know, you're not really like that at all. It's a far cry from Lemonade Cordial in Detectorist. That was such a glorious thing. Do you know, my wife and I cottoned onto that quite late. We missed it when it went out, so we went back and we said, we'll watch the first episode. And we then binge-watched over several weeks this glorious confection of Toby Jones and Mackenzie Crook.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Whitehouse and Mortimer going fishing.
Yes.
It's what you might call slow telly, but it was absolutely compulsive.
Yeah.
And a fun thing to be a part of, I would have thought.
Beautiful. It was so lovely, Anna, to be a part of that. We filmed in Suffolk we did 3 series and a couple of specials, I think. And actually in the last special I was in the theatre, so I only got a couple of Sundays up there talking to trees and things because people weren't there, if you see what I mean. They had to sort of slot Sheila
drop you in. Yeah.
I mean, Sheila was quite easy to slot in because she was so strange, which that's what I loved best about her.
Because she sort of drifts in.
Yeah.
And drifts out. And there's always this kind of...
Who is she? She's very strange. But no, it was a beautiful thing. I always feel like Mackenzie dug it out of the ground, in a way, out of the ground of himself, you know, like a beautiful artefact, you know, and because it's so strange. And then I think he won a BAFTA for the first or second series, and I think he buried it for a metal detectorist to find, which I thought was
Gracious
poetic.
me, very poetic.
Yeah, yeah.
What a story.
I think that's true.
And it was lovely to see Diana Rigg. In that.
Brilliant.
With her daughter.
With her daughter.
Yeah, Rachel.
Oh, Rachel, beautiful, beautiful.
Probably about her last appearance, wasn't it?
I think it might have been, yeah. Sadly, I didn't get to do anything with her because Sheila was quite isolated as a personality. She was quite odd. Again, I just love
I have
that.
a feeling you like odd folk.
I do like odd, yeah.
It's interesting with actors because not the case with you at all. Some of them, you're trying to find a personality and then you begin to realise that the reason they like acting is they're not quite sure who they are themselves. So to be able to inhabit another character who is identifiable, that's their way of living in a way, which is a bit sad, I find, in a way.
I know what you mean, and I struggle with the real bit sometimes, like we all do, and I think that's the advantage of doing this job, is the pretending and the playing. And I think that it feels like a real privilege to have that sort of knitted into your life through your work, because often I meet people and I think, oh, I think you've forgotten how to play, or your imagination has stopped you going to certain places that would help you.
Well, Beatrix Potter always said it's important to keep the child in you alive, and I've always found that's a wonderful excuse.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, similarly in your game, Alan, you've got to keep a really open mind, and really acting is just about listening and thinking about how another person might feel in a particular situation. That's all it is, really. We're interpreters of a... You know, so I'll tell a story, you know, completely differently from another actor. Obviously, that's what casting's all about.
Were you aware that you were born into a dynasty? You know, your mum, your father, Eric Thompson, you know, your mum, Philly Delore, your sister, Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
Was there an awareness that we are a theatrical family? Was it not quite like that? Because your dad, the Magic Roundabout, which we all grew up with.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. No. I know people do say that, and they say the word dynasty. I think that's very strange. Isn't that something that goes back much further in time? You know, Dad wasn't... Mum and Dad were really the groundbreakers. They came from families that didn't have anything to do with theatre. Although I think one of my grandpas, who I didn't met, ended up being an old musical person. I didn't know much about him, but... So that, on my dad's side, I didn't...
Did you used to watch Magic Roundabout when you were little?
Yeah, we did, and we had all the Pelham puppets, but I think also when it's what your mum and dad do, it's just like what they do.
Everyday life.
So I was like, oh yeah, the magic. I mean, now of course it's very particular and very vivid in my heart on so many levels. But then it was just what Dad did, and I used to go and help him in his little study, and he had that a really old machine with a reel-to-reel on it, and he would just watch the tapes, and there was just this one button which was forward stop, back stop, and I used to love sitting there he had his A4 pad or A3 or whatever it is.
Florence and Dougal.
And he'd be writing it up.
And it was so wonderfully relaxed. I have to tell you, when I was at Horticultural and Agricultural College in the late 60s, it was on, I think, just before the 6 o'clock news, and we all used to pile into the common room where the television was, all these big farmers' sons and everything, and watch the Magic Roundabout and then leave before the news. It was much more exciting to watch that.
Healthy choice.
You have made a career for yourself in musicals. I mean, as Miss Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, you were nominated for an Olivier, so that must have been chuffing. I mean, I've never forgotten you in that role.
Oh, thanks.
And it sounds as though I'm flattering you, but we still talk about that part at home, about you doing Miss Adelaide, which is just hilarious.
Thank you. I love doing that part. I mean, it's a brilliant piece of work, every song.
And you played opposite David Haig.
Yes.
Reuniting since 4 weddings.
Since we married, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretend married. Yeah.
Shall we have a look at you getting married?
Oh, go on.
Here we are.
Now I'm divorced.
Lydia, repeat after me. I do solemnly declare.
I do solemnly declare.
That I know not of any lawful impediment.
That I know not of any lawful impediment.
Why I, Lydia Jane Hibbert.
Why I, Lydia Jane Hibbert.
May not be joined in matrimony.
May not be joined in matrimony.
To Bernard Geoffrey Sidger Delaney.
To Bernard Geoffrey St. John Delaney.
I would have thought there was so much comedy value in that little bit of the marriage service. Rowan Atkinson, David Haig, and you becoming his awful wedded wife a little later. 30 years since 4 weddings, it's hard to believe.
I know, they're doing some sort of retrospective thing. I was chatting to a lady the other day about it, who's collating some sort of memory scenario.
Wasn't it done sort of on a budget,
yes.
really?
6 weeks, budget.
6 weeks?
I think it was 6 weeks. Mike Newell, the director, it was like he was the father of all the brides. He was so full of creative stress. I remember looking over and seeing him in a field, much as you've got here, sort of almost jumping up and down on the spot, just letting out his tension. Because, of course, there was all these weddings that he had to, organise. It's a wonderful feeling to be part of something that seemed to touch so many people in such a funny and delightful way.
And it did seem like an enormous family piece in a way, because you were all related in different ways on the screen, but you did look like a company that enjoyed working with each other.
I think we did. I think we really did. I mean, I just remember a lot of sitting in churches with David Haig, just nattering and gossiping for hours on end, because you know what filming's like. There's a lot of sitting about, but we were always in lovely places and beautiful little churches, and it was just a pleasure, and it's very lovely remembering it with other people.
Talk about being in the field and about being here. I mean, you are a country woman. I mean, you enjoy being out. You go to Scotland a lot because there's a family home up there.
Yeah, I do. I'm a hybrid, I suppose. I suppose we all are in a way. I do love the city, and I was born in the city, and I'm a city girl. But if you can have both, which we've always been so privileged to have because of my mum being Scottish, we always had a home there. They feed each other, and I think that's the best of both. Well, it's the best of both worlds, basically, isn't it?
And the coast. You love the coast.
Oh, yeah. Being near water, I'll often just get on a train and go down to the coast. If I'm feeling raggedy, I find just being near an edge. Sometimes I can't get to Scotland because of work and time, and it does take a while. So I'll just go down to Brighton or Hastings. I went the other day just to sort of go feel the edge, get in the water if it's a nice day, which it hasn't been recently, but today it'd be perfect, wouldn't it? But overrun with people.
Yeah. Look, you are always welcome. It is always such a joy having you, Sophie.
Thanks,
An
Alice.
actor who says, actually, I'm only pretending, you get my vote. Bless your heart. Thanks, Sophie. And you're staying around for our little crash course in cordials.
Oh, yes, please.
We'll try and find something stiff to put in.
Yeah, gin will do fine.
And me, I'll join you in that. But before we talk squash, let's loosen, relax and unwind by rolling moors and rhythmic music rather than going to the coast. It's today's Ode to Joy. The stunning Dartmoor National Park, setting of so many great works of literature, courtesy of Michael Eakers and set to the Serenade No. 5 by Joseph Haydn. Coming up, Andy Clark on the very civilised cordials that are making watered-down squash a thing of the past. Andy and his pick of the pops, right after this. Welcome back to Love Your Weekends. There's something to be said, you know, for the nostalgia you get sipping a glass of squash on a hot day. I mean, the flavours might be artificial and the colours are nothing like the fruit they are meant to portray. But when you're a nipper, you don't really care, do you? It's all about colour. But that's all changing as cordials get classier and flavours more intense. Andy Clark's putting some through their paces now. So we've got much more range now rather than just lemon squash and orange squash, haven't we?
We really have. We've got a lot of beautiful artisan producers making some fantastic posh squash, which is basically what we have here today. I'm going to start with what I'm calling my Rhubarbarama. Rhubarb version, a little tribute to my favourite pop act of the 80s and 90s. This is made with the newt from Somerset, rhubarb and apple cordial. It is beautiful. They are a country estate. Ooh. They have 2,000 acres of farm. Ooh. They wanted to encapsulate the beautiful fruity nature and the acidity of their rhubarb and their apples. And this is I love this so much. I haven't put a squeeze of citrus in there or any mixes. It's just that. It's just that with some lovely sparkling water.
It's beautiful and so bright.
And no alcohol? Just
no alcohol, as it is, fresh and beautiful as the English sunshine.
Andy, it's fruity. I'm getting a flute by Stillwater. It's beautiful.
I love it. They can write that on their next label. So natural and just beautiful, and it's fun. It makes you smile, doesn't it?
It does. Sophie, do you like it?
I love it.
Gorgeous.
And I love
delicious.
I think the rhubarb stirrer is a winner.
It's a nice idea. I mean,
organic swizzle stick.
Absolutely. And if you want more acidity, you can literally bite the rhubarb. It is raw. But I just think they've done really lovely things. I just wanted to put that with sparkling water, simple as.
Gorgeous.
Okay.
Delicious. Thank you, Andy.
That's quite all right. Next, it's my gooseberry fools. Okay, this is Mr. Fitzpatrick's gooseberry and elderflower cordial from Lancashire. They are keen herbalists. They've been making drinks for 250 years. They had some temperance bars, and that is mixed with tonic water and 9 tines potato vodka from Yorkshire. So-called 9 tines because tines are the prongs on a fork that you would get the potatoes out the ground with a rounded end. And yours does not have the vodka in, Omid.
It's
I'm
delicious.
getting early Byzantium. I'm getting a soupçon of Persian cat. It's fantastic.
It says that on the label.
Which end?
Brilliant.
Wow.
It's lovely on its own. Yours is just with tonic. We've got the vodka, but the potato vodka is so smooth. I think
you can't tell us vodka. I mean, it's delicious.
But not too strong because it's daytime.
Oh gosh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And what's this piece of fruit?
That's a little bit of lemon. I put a squeeze of lemon juice in there to raise the acidity between the elderflower and the gooseberry, and that's a bit of zest. You're going to get a lot of lemon there, Omid. It's going to cut through the elderflower.
That's cut through your cat, hasn't it?
It's wonderful, delicious.
Absolutely delicious.
Oh, I'm loving that.
Wow.
Right, we're going quite stripped back and sensible here. This is my purple locomotion potion, and this is a blackcurrant cordial from Pixley Berries of Herefordshire. They use blackcurrants, and it is a Pixley blackcurrant. It's an exclusive little variety, and I've literally put that with still water. This is all it is because the natural acidity and vibrancy of the blackcurrants stands up so well. I've just put a bit of mint in there to bring out the stalkiness and the greenness as well, and it's got 3 great taste stars. I think it's just delicious.
This is posh Ribena.
It
Exactly.
is.
In it.
It's
but
gorgeous.
It's lovely and fruity.
There's the mint in there, Andy. It's so lovely.
Yeah.
You get that little whiff of the mint in the sun that draws you into the drink.
It's full-bodied and with a slightly nervous finish, but I like it.
It is full-bodied, isn't it? But it's
full-bodied.
3 out of 3 so far.
Good. Now, we're going with my strawberry smash. And this is strawberry and lime cordial from Norfolk Cordial Company. Fresh fruit, cold pressed for maximum flavour. I've put yours with some tonic there, Omid. And with ours, we're staying in Norfolk, and we're going with Bullard's Coastal Gin. Bullard's Coastal Gin has hand-foraged sea purslane, marsh samphire, sea aster, and also Douglas fir. And the salinity of that gin cuts through the beautiful strawberry and lime. I put a squeeze of lime juice, so you've got natural fruit in there, and it's jolly refreshing for a day like today.
I'm getting Wimbledon Centre Court.
Are you?
And for some reason, Björn Ulvaeus from ABBA. I don't know why.
Well, he helped me fix. He's in the kitchen. He helped me fix the. You're a genius.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought I could sense this. If this was a theatre play, it would be a Peter Brook entertaining, educating and elevating piece.
I'll take that. I think that's
I
good.
really feel that.
I've never thought of you as being pretentious and pompous before.
You don't know me at all. Was that too much? I never know.
It's never too much here. I mean.
And finally, Andy.
And finally.
Don't let it end.
And finally, we are going for a raspberry rambler. If you've been rambling in the sunshine, when you get back home, have one of these. This is Beaver Farm's Raspberry and Lemon Cordial from Leicestershire. They've been making cordials for 40 years. Sustainability is at their core, and wonderful fruit. And I've mixed that with Hattingley Valley, the English Gent sparkling wine. Obviously, Omid, you've got some sparkling water in yours. It is a mix, a very British mix of Bacchus and Pinot Gris in a beautiful sparkling wine with the raspberry and lemon cordial and a squeeze of lemon.
Oh, it's quite sharp, that one.
Yeah, you've got natural acidity in there from the raspberry. What I didn't want to do, I think if you put any more in there, it would go to the sweet edge.
Yes.
And I wanted to keep it, you know, a little bit zingy
Edgy.
to make sure it keeps, edgy, keeps us on our toes.
Yes,
For the
Andy,
daytime.
You've done it. You've
And
nailed
there were
it.
frozen raspberries in there.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I'm on my toes.
Ooh, good. That's good for your warm-up for tonight.
Yeah.
Omid, you've got the gentle version.
It's the gentle version. There's no sweetness. It's light. It's delightful. It's a winning goal in the European Cup final. It's the current Manchester United back five that's giving the whole world so much joy.
We like that.
I want your taste buds.
Gorgeous.
And you're enjoying it, Sophie?
It's lovely, yeah. It's lovely. I love raspberries.
Great.
And I'd love to neck it all if I wasn't busy later.
What are you doing later?
Take
You're
some
not doing
with
anything
you.
later. Go for it.
I'd literally go through them all and then lie in a bush somewhere.
Lie down in the
Singing.
sunshine.
And
In
if
the
you
sun.
understood exactly what she meant by all that, please do drop us a line explaining it to the rest of us. It's been a delight. That's it for today. Thanks to all my guests, to Sophie, to Omid, and to Andy. Joining me next week, a star-studded lineup for our final show of the series. Sue Barker, West End star Zizi Strallen, and Clive Anderson will be sending us off into the summer. And Farmer Tom Davis is back with everything you need to know about preparing your chickens for showing. You've been waiting for so long, haven't you? This time we're going big, I have to tell you. But until then, with our feathers fluffed, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And from all of us here, deciding which one to choose. Cheers. Cheers, all.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers,
Lovely
Andy.
to see you.
Thanks so much. Delicious.
I think you need to become a drinks writer, Omid, with your words. Definitely. I'm out of a job.
I love the I'm getting, which was always the
I'm getting.
Wheelbarrow oil.
Yeah.